joined now by Ed Palumbo of Elite Prospects. And I feel like a lot of hockey fans would know what Elite Prospects is, but if not, we're going to let Ed explain it to us. And Ed, tell us what you do for Elite Prospects.
Thanks for having me, Pat. Elite Prospects, basically, just to give a background on the website, we are currently the largest online hockey database of teams, players, and leagues worldwide. The site began in 1999. It was actually started by one person, Johan Nielsen, who's still with the company today. Johan started the site because there was nothing in 1999 tracking Swedish NHL prospects. The kids who were drafted back then were the first ones to get their profile pages up. It expanded from there, from Sweden to Finland, then all over Europe, and then eventually the NHL players and other CHL prospects, NCAA prospects. I believe it was just 7 or 8 years ago when we really took off is when we expanded to youth hockey in North America and a little bit in Europe as well. I've only been with the company for a little under 2 years now. I'm currently the director of hockey for team sales and live events. Basically what I do is I manage the sales department. We focus a lot on the premium subscriptions and getting group discounts for teams, for companies that are interested on the Elite Prospects premium subscriptions, and then also pushing our verified player subscriptions for active players who are looking to turn their EP profile into more of a recruiting page for them. So that's something new that we just launched in the last year and a half, 2 years. That's really taking off. And especially now with the new season coming up, we're starting to see those numbers really take off with verified profiles. The other part of my job is I run the live events. We don't have many. For a number of years, we were just an online presence, but now we want to be more than that and do more of the guerrilla marketing. During the fall and winter, we have the Elite Prospects Cup Series, which is run with tournament scheduling partner in the States called Super Series. And we run 4 weekend events, basically showcases hosting anywhere between 32 and 40 teams per weekend. An Elite Prospects Cup Championship weekend where 14U through 18U teams can duke it out and take home championship titles. The other big event that we have in April is the Elite Prospects Invitational, which is more geared toward those higher end 15-year-olds who are eligible for either the CHL drafts or the USHL draft. In the first 2 years, we've grown from an event with 40 players, 2 teams, 3-game showcase in Colorado College our first year. That one resulted in quite a few USHL and a few CHL draft picks. The event this past April was our second one. We did it at Michigan State. In total, I think 84 total players we've had in these 2 years that we've done it. We've had 18 USHL draft picks, 6 OHL draft picks, and we just had our first QMJHL draft pick. It's an exciting event to host and give the kids an opportunity to showcase their skills one last time.
I think it's remarkable how quickly data tends to get updated. Obviously, that's not as surprising for the NHL or even AHL or high-profile minor leagues, but if Cam Squires scores a goal for the Eagles tonight, his stats are going to be updated the next day. How do stats get updated so quickly for so many different leagues?
For some of those higher end leagues, we have deals with the league themselves where we can pull the data directly from either an API or right from the website. If you're looking at the youth and the minor hockey, we're either getting spreadsheets upon spreadsheets upon spreadsheets from coaches. At any point during the year, Elite Prospects has anywhere between 120 and 160 volunteers who are just entering data that they find online. A lot of it's manual entry, but obviously in this day and age, a lot of stuff can be automated too. We just need to make sure we have the correct permissions. I don't work on any of the database part of it, but I hear about it a lot. And I work closely with one of the database managers who I'm forwarding emails to all the time with different little changes. And one of the things that we always pride ourselves on is we make sure that we're verifying these stats. We need to have some sort of paper trail or some sort of online source to make sure everything's all right. We're not just going to get an email from somebody and saying that their kid had 2 assists when they got credited with 1. We need to make sure that it's legit stats.
What does an average workday look like for you? You kind of hinted it might be more on the event side of things.
The event side's new. I run that department, and a few of our North American staff actually help out with the different events. A lot of people probably assume a website with as much data as Elite Prospects probably has 100 or 200 full-time staff. That's actually not true. I can't speak to exactly how many people over in Europe are working for the company, but in North America, I know for a fact we only have about 8 or 9 full-time people, along with a few contractors. Anybody who reads our EP Rinkside content, a lot of those guys are contracted. Obviously, the editor-in-chief and a few others are full-time, but we are owned by a Swedish media conglomerate called Every Sport, and Every Sport, they actually run about 18 to 23 other websites. And the people over there in Europe who do work with Elite Prospects and some of those other sites, I think we have close to 100 full-time people over there as well. It's a large operation from a corporate level, but as far as Elite Prospects is concerned, it's actually not that many people.
Do you get a lot of feedback from people inside the game, high-ranking people, about how often they use the site?
We do. I actually sell the API, the back end of our site, to companies and teams. Right now, we don't really have a set sort of sales plan for selling to teams in the CHL or NCAA, but the NHL teams are buying our API. They don't want to have to sign up for premium and just get a bunch of stats manually from our site. So we allow them to take in some sort of automated fashion. The feedback that we receive is coming from a lot of the hockey analytics professionals. We do hear from GMs, we do hear from scouts how the website's really grown from where it used to be and how everybody used to compare elite prospects to Hockey DB. And yet we have a lot of respect for the guys over at Hockey DB as well. We hear a lot of just praise for how well we've done as a company and how we've been able to grow the site.
You talk about selling premium content, which is obviously important to keep the business going. You see stuff like NHL draft coverage, Inside of Fantasy Sports. Have you noticed a shift in what people are taking an interest in? Has that changed as the years go by?
Fantasy hockey has been around for a long time, but now there's that shift to getting more information for your fantasy sports, not just hockey, but all sorts of fantasy sports. And that's why Cam Robinson from our staff, he's been working on fantasy hockey for a few years. And when we brought him over to Elite Prospects, that was one of the things that was discussed with him about starting our fantasy hockey draft guide. That was a huge thing. It's grown a lot of subscribers to our site, and it's been very popular. And the most recent one just came out a few weeks ago, and it's also second year in a row now just blowing up for us. I think especially with my job and having discussions with teams in the NHL, they're all looking at game by game logs. That's a big thing that they want. From an analytics perspective, if we're talking about that kind of content, analysts want more data and more ways to read that data. Providing that API is huge for them. It's just easier for them to input whatever they want from our website and our API into whatever processes they're using at their team to really pick out who might be a better draft pick or who might be a better free agent signing. We want to expand what we could possibly do as far as video, and that's part of what we offer on the verified profiles for current active players. They can actually upload their own video highlights now. Especially during the pandemic, everybody noticed that video was sort of going to be king as far as scouting and keeping track of prospects. These NHL teams and even the CHL guys, instead of spending money to send guys out thousands of miles away, they can watch them on video first to see if it's even worth it to go out there. Or it could happen vice versa. You find a kid in person, maybe you want to research a little bit more about them on video.
A lot of interesting stuff there. Thanks for the insight, Ed, and good luck with EP the rest of the way.
All right. Thank you very much for having me.
That's Ed Palumbo working with Elite Prospects. You're listening to the Eagles at the intermission on 1270 CJCB.